Welcome to the final episode of Series 51, everyone. We are so excited to bring this discussion episode to you. It has phenomenal fanfic. I'm really excited for everybody to hear it. Before we get there, though, quick announcements because we're trying to keep it brief.
Yep. First up, the game that we are covering this series, Alchemistresses, is now on Kickstarter.
Woo!
It just launched this last Tuesday, and we are both recommending that you check this game out as soon as possible. We have a link right in our show notes that goes right to the Kickstarter page, and it is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff, like the game, and then if you want the little peripherals, those are an option.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's it for any big announcements. You can join us after the show for our final thoughts about the game, our expanded announcements, and some patron thank yous.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, please enjoy this episode, everyone. Welcome back to our discussion episode. Last time we finished our session 0 for Alchemistresses. This episode, we are going to discuss the character creation process. We are thrilled to welcome back Allison K. and Dora Dee Rogers, the designers of this game. Do you want to reintroduce yourselves for everyone, and then please tell us about the characters that you made?
I'd love to. So, hi, I'm once again Allison, and I'm a tabletop roleplay designer and founder of Soft Chaos, a workers' cooperative. And I made, a past and present version of the Mistress of Air in Alchemistresses. In present day, her name is Sky, and she has a friendship with her neighbor River, who definitely she doesn't realize has any sort of crush on her, because that would be so strange. She's like a flighty artist in a high school that is about 1,000 years in the future. It's going to be a little weird when we talk about past and present now that I think about it. So our present day is in the future, so about 1,000 years in the future. And then her past self, who is in 2022, is the Mistress of Air, a kind of superhero-esque magical controller of the elements who's really into Excel spreadsheets and making sure the logistics of their superhero team all stay intact.
I love that so much. I'm the spreadsheet superhero.
The stage manager.
That's a t-shirt. That's a t-shirt you give to a project manager.
Right.
Spreadsheet superhero.
Spreadsheet super, like it's on a coffee mug on your desk. Yes. I love it.
And I'm Dora. I am a game designer and writer. You can find me on Twitter at DoraD_. And I made June in our present world. June is a serious girl who is trying to save money so she can take a trip after she graduates. She's really concerned about following in her sort of like black sheep sister's footsteps, falling in with a bad crowd. She has a close relationship, or I should say a relationship with Ember. She is Ember's ship supervisor. And she's not really sure that Ember is Millennial Times material.
I forgot that we named it that. How did I forget that?
We did. We work at a diner called Millennial Times, and we wear weird costumes that are like a really mangled version of like fashion between 1960 and 2030.
What did we say? Low-cut bell bottoms, Green Day shirts, and roller skates.
Hover roller skates, yes.
Yeah.
Hover roller skates, right?
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes though, she yells, "Blossom into beauty and power," and she transforms into the Mistress of Earth, who was a very like community-minded leader who was trying to build up the place around her and had a very close relationship with the Mistress of Air and tried to get her out of her spreadsheet sometimes so that she could stay like a whole person.
Amazing.
Ryan, please tell us about your magical girl experience.
Oh, amazing. So I created River. She is in the present day, which is 1,000 years in the future, effectively a swimming jock at the school. She puts her almost everything into swimming. She really wants to win that state swimming competition in the butterfly category for the first time. So she's been training hard for that. She's even though she's a great swimmer, she's very afraid of deep water where you can't see the bottom, which I personally am the same. You put me on the ocean and I will not be anywhere near the edge of that boat.
You don't know what's in there?
Exactly. I've played Descent into Midnight.
Yes.
I know Richard Crate's Landry.
Right.
I know what's going on. And she is the mistress of water when she transforms. Time to get into the deep end is her transformation phrase. And then she turns into the mistress of water, who in the past, which is our present, 2022, she was practically a full-time superhero, barely made any time for real life matters, and wasn't able to be there fully for the mistress of fire because she was being too single-minded with the heroics, and couldn't reconcile that with her really strong feelings for the mistress of fire. So, and also in the present, which is of course 1,000 years in the future, she's got a secret crush on the present version of the Mistress of Air, Sky.
It's not complicated at all.
Not at all.
No. It's my turn. Are we ready?
Yes, Amelia.
So I made Amelia Antrim, if she were a magical girl. My character is the past Mistress of Fire. Current day, her name is Ember. And she just really wants to be the lead in the school play. She does have a job working at Millennial Times, but like it's not really super important. It's just, you know, like she shows up kind of when she feels like it. And she is passionate and kind of eccentric. But in her past life as her magical girl self, she was the Mistress of Fire, and was a sort of politician who really wanted to use her passion to like build something that works for everyone. But unfortunately, the Mistress of Water really let her down by not being there for her.
Yeah. Feel bad about that. It's one of my deepest regrets.
Yeah.
You know, Millennial Times is you're only going to get out of your Millennial Times what you put into Millennial Times. That's just something to think about.
Can we talk about how many pieces of flair you have?
Right. I don't know that your attitude is really Millennial Times material.
Oh my God.
We need some more turn of the century flair. I know it's not required, but you know, Todd has 5.
I noticed your jeans are a little high-waisted. I just needed
your
to
bell
talk
bottoms
to you
aren't quite
about
like wide enough. Yeah.
It's more of a boot cut, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely see that you're wearing a Less Than Jake shirt, and it is Green Day that you're supposed to be. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's a ska reference, everyone.
Let's go ahead and dive right into a segment we are calling D20 for your thoughts.
D20 for your thoughts?
So in this segment, we would like to get your thoughts on the character creation process, both in this game and in general when you play games. First, though, we're going to ask the world's most cliche RPG podcast question. How did you get into games?
Well, I'm going to give a very impassioned answer by saying it was by starting to play the best game, objectively the best game of all time, which is a LARP called Tales of the Crystals for 8-year-old girls. It was designed and written by the person who made the cartoon Gem and the Holograms. So she's actually a game designer as well. And it is a full-on LARP for young girls. So I started playing when I was 8, started LARPing. You save unicorns, you run through the forest. I've played to this day. Like, I got my friends to go into a forest last summer to play it again. Dee was there. She ended up making out with the evil lady Morphea when no one was around. I
need to look into this because I have a 9-year-old daughter who's obsessed with unicorns.
I cannot recommend more. It's a little like hippie feely, like you do like crystal circles and you have a divination board. It's like, I love it. It does come with an audio cassette that plays to give you like a script for your adventure. So yeah, I did that when I was like 8 to 10. And then when I was 12 years old, I started hosting murder mysteries at my apartment. Not my apartment, my house then, I guess. My parents were very supportive almost every month. So my friends would come in full character costume, stay in character for 4 or 5 hours, and we would do those murder mysteries.
Oh, wow.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I went to a performing arts school. I'll say that. Which I think is a special and unique circumstance. But yeah, so I did that. So I've been LARPing actually much longer than I've been doing tabletop stuff. So in college, someone was like, want to join a tabletop campaign? And I'm like, it's like LARPing, but without the fun costumes. And they're like, you can still dress up. And then I was in. So
you're like, it's LARPing, but we sit the whole time.
Yep. Think how nice it would be to sit. I got into, I don't know how I originally found it. I was like, I imagine this is kind of a common experience. I was like a teenager who really wanted to try role playing and had like no idea how to find somebody to play with, but
wasn't at a performing arts school.
I was not at a performing arts school. I got really into, like Vampire the Masquerade, back in the day, and other White Wolf games. That was the first thing I got really into. You know, I think I said I like hot tragic girls. So that's like a natural fit.
Oh yeah.
And that was kind of when I was a teenager, and I did eventually find people to play with and played a lot. And then I was kind of took time off during college and was really playing. And as an adult, the first game that I played that a game that I think sort of put me on the path to the kinds of games I love now was Lady Blackbird. Perennial classic. And yeah, it was, I don't think I had played in a while, and I somehow got involved in a game of Lady Blackbird, and it was, it was just sort of a defining experience. And since then, I've like a lot of what I play and like is like Powered by the Apocalypse, which I think, is sort of in conversation or in ancestry with Lady Blackbird. So, that's kind of my background.
It's an intense game to jump back into the hobby with.
Well, it is and it isn't, because it definitely is in a lot of ways, but I think that it was relieving, especially coming out of like White Wolf, where everything is very much about, there's a lot of storytelling, but it's very much about like lore. And then you always sort of come back to and form a dice pool, and it explodes under these circumstances, but not these, and subtraction resistance.
It's very crunchy.
Yeah. And then like coming back to Lady Blackbird, which is like it's very much sort of like you roll dice. Here's how you make the dice pool. And here's like a rough guide to how you interpret any kind of roll, right? Like that was, mechanically, I think it was like it felt like it took out a lot of the things that I had found barriers before.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it just like speeds things up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a fun fact, I studied games for my graduate degree, and there's a indie TTRPG class, and Lady Blackbird is the first game you play in that class. So for a lot of people who went through that program, it is the first TTRPG they've ever played, which I find fascinating.
What school did you go to? This sounds amazing.
Classic NYU.
Like man, I went to the wrong school. It's funny. Amelia and I went to the same school, so
We did. We did. We did not have a TTRPG class.
not even
that I know
close.
of. I don't know.
No, I looked for any
You
game
would have
design
found
courses.
it.
100%.
Yeah. Maybe
Amazing.
someday.
I'm hoping they get a full LARP class because LARP was included in Indie TTRPG, which I mean, it's still great. Not a lot of places your homework is playing 3 LARPs. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so cool. Well, it sounds like there's a lot of experience behind both of you. So what do you look for in a system as far as character creation goes? Like what sort of pieces need to be there for great characters to happen?
I'm pretty basic. I want there to be like the thing I talked about, that like fate web of connections, is if I'm playing with a group, and that's most of my play, because I think I would have different expectations for a solo game.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm playing like a social game, I want dramatic ties to all the other players that have the potential to either explode in my face or become something amazing,
Yes.
or both.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like it when room for growth is incorporated narratively into the character, not just like XP growth, but my character gets to change and develop. And the more I as a player figure out about my character, the more I can put into them. So those are like 2 things that are really important to me.
What is one of my hills to die on is like, why, if we did this dungeon crawl, did I gain a skill in sailing at the next level? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
On board with that.
The whole time you were walking through the dungeon just thinking, I'd rather be sailing.
Yeah, I wish I had a boat.
So I really like mechanics that are very fictionally evocative. And so my favorite game of all time is probably Monster Hearts, and like the second edition in particular. Where like, you look at a Monster Hearts skin, and each move just like tells, like almost like on its own, tells you these very rich stories. One of my favorite like moves in that game is there's a vampire move that lets you hypnotize somebody basically. And one of the consequences, if it doesn't go perfectly, is like their mind comes unhinged, which is just like, so you read that and you're like, oh, wow. Okay. Like, there's so much that can happen coming out of that. I also, this isn't the only kind of game I play, but I like games that are very tailored around a specific kind of experience, in favor of, as opposed to games that are, that you can tell any story in. I love Firebrands. I love, like little authored games. Oh, I just got to play test a great game that is, I believe, successfully kickstarted soon, called I Have the High Ground, which is basically about playing out the duel. No, let me be very specific. It's about playing out the conversation that Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker have before their lightsaber duel in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Oh
right?
my gosh.
It's specifically about like, you create 2 duelists who are meeting under some circumstances, and then the whole game is just playing out their exchange of taunts before they clash. And you can go in a lot of directions. There's a lot of different emotions that can come out at that moment. But I love games that really focus in on one kind of emotion or one kind of experience like that.
Yeah, like I can do this one specific thing really well, which again, we just finished our D&D episodes too. So this is, no news to our listeners, but like you can't run everything in 5th edition because there are so many games out there that just do all of those little pieces better.
Yeah.
And I know that's, like then you have to find like 800 different games, but like all of these games do different things. And, some of them do all like those little conversations or something so well. And I really love mixing things like that into other games where you're like, okay, now we're going to do this downtime scene, or like we're going to have this duel, but first, yeah. Like those little, it's the same with like people's dissertations for their doctorates too, is like, oh, you found this one tiny niche that you are super passionate about. And I love that for you.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good.
It's part of the reason I'm dating Dora over here. is like, I did my master's degree, and one of the first times we met, she's like, yes, I will listen to you passionately talk. My master's thesis was on like intimacy in games. And she's like, yeah, I would love to listen to you blab about that for hours. And I was like, great.
Free life hack for any listeners, like anybody, any grad student, you can make an instant friend for life just by saying like, tell me about your research, and then just being patient for half an hour.
Like,
right?
For the last year, I've been joking about making a podcast. Tell me about your thesis, and just inviting people on that have done a thesis or are doing a thesis to just gush about that topic at me, while I just like get my mind blown.
Have you ever said that out loud to me? Because that is also a podcast that I have wanted to start.
We'll talk.
Okay. This is our new side project.
Like, every grad student in the world will love you.
Thinking about that forever. Well, because mine was like, I didn't do a master's or anything, but my capstone in my undergraduate was on participation in European Union parliamentary elections. And it's like, nobody knows anything about that. But I'm like, let me tell you that in 2010, I predicted Brexit. So... I know. Yeah. Well, and it's funny though that you say that, because like you just talked about how you like games that have, you know, sort of like that personal connection. And so it's like, oh, you two work perfectly together. It's very sweet. So I want to ask how all of this kind of connects with the way character creation works in Alchemistresses. We did see some of that kind of relationship mechanic that you talked about, Allison, about like having those webs between people. How did you bring those things that you love about character creation into this game?
So I think a big part for us was this memory mechanic. And it was like literally mechanizing the way I play characters too, in a way, where like as I learn more about them, there are things I might not know about them. And I get very anxious when I'm first creating a character and someone expects me to like know everything about them.
Yes. Okay.
I need room to breathe. I need room to like figure out who they are. And if you ask me to do it on the spot, they might be more shallow than I would want them to be. So that's kind of like designed into like how it advances, right? You learn more about your character. You have a page that is blank. Like it's like a blank page that is waiting to be filled in. So that's kind of how that room to grow works. And I really love that. And then anytime I can tie a character to another character in character creation, that's my biggest thing for those webs. And letting them know that they'll remember their relationships at different speeds, I think for this game in particular, is really big into creating those sort of intimate ties and allowing players to arc their narrative.
I thought that was an interesting option too, just because it allows me to play my character at my own speed too.
Yeah.
Because if Ryan kind of like discovers memories at a faster speed and I'm like, well, I'm not there. I don't know those things about my character yet. Like I haven't figured out if I'm into that or not. And I like that it allows for that sort of like disproportionate level of response to those kinds of things.
I really love how in character creation in Alchemistresses with the relationship matches is you get two of them. And that first one you might not know fully all about at first. And it's just fascinating that like as you are progressing through here, those relationships of the past start bubbling into the present and how that can like dramatically change how your character views the world.
And that it's not the same relationship too. I like that because I like it when it's messy. I love when things are messy.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that asymmetricalness of the relationships is really sweet too.
Yeah. We had to briefly tell a story from our current playtest. This is just a great game, and I could talk about it for a long time, but I won't. But we had like just sort of exactly what you're talking about, Amelia, played out where one character asked sort of their past lover like out in the present and was like, hey, you know, like we're sort of rediscovering these feelings, like, look, we should be together. And the other person was like, no, like, I don't want to be with you because you're remembering how you used to love a different version of me. And it took like, you know, like so many sessions for that to work out. And they eventually did get together, but it was like, had to be negotiated and a lot of, you know, hurt feelings worked through before that can happen.
Yeah, like you're remembering a thing that I can't even guarantee happened at all. Yeah. Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah, so good.
That's so good.
Also very messy, which just yes. I agree. That's all I want.
It's so fun to play out. Like it's so it's so good.
Yeah. And I think that's the big thing from Alchemistress character creation and also gameplay that I just love, which is that I just really all I want from a game is to make space specifically for like the drama of my character and their interior emotional state. I'm the sort of person who like makes like if I do play D&D, I'm like making the GM take time to talk about how my night flirting with like the person we met went. Yeah, which is fine, but it's like it's something that we are bringing to it, right? As opposed to I really want to be asked like, so who does your character have a crush on in character creation, and that like also signals that it both signals that that's going to be a part of the gameplay, and it necessitates it being a part of the gameplay because it's something on our sheets that we're going to want to keep bringing up.
Mm-hmm. Dee wrote a specific section called A GM's Guide to Swoon-Worthy Crushes.
Oh, so, that's so good.
Very good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like the actual going through the character creation stuff, the personal goals, the fears, and the regrets. Like the
regrets.
They're such simple, like little questions that have such complexity behind them that like in other games, it's like, well, especially like PBTA, you're going to be like, here, pick from this list of things or make up your own. And here's a few relationship questions. You can answer one or more of these, but they're very specific, pointed questions, right? That help tell the story of the playbook that you're trying to go for. These are like so open-ended, but like in such a good way that like you get to define who you are, that to a point where like you go through these 5 or 6 different fields and now you've got a really decent idea of who this person is and like where they're coming from with their past selves as well.
I have to say that I usually don't like when things are that open-ended. I have a really hard time outside of the podcast making characters for campaigns because I am like, okay, I have to, I have to get it perfect because I have to play them for a long time. Here, there's like no consequences. But like when you give me an open question like that, it's like, what do you regret? And it's like, well, I don't know. And I don't know if it's just the order that we did things in or like the way that the character creation flows in this game that I didn't have to like really think about it that long. It just felt really obvious to me that it's like, this is what you care about and this is what you do. And so I think the way everything is kind of built around those things, it was like, sure, I can very easily come up with a sentence, like one sentence that will make me cry. And, it was a lot easier than I expected, like looking at the character sheets. I was like, I'm never going to be able to fill this in. But it wasn't as hard as I usually find it.
I think one thing about the structure too is that like, and I guess I think that you were the one who first brought this up, Allison, is that, it makes sense. It makes sense that the game would accommodate this, is that especially the regret, especially everything for the past self where you know that you're sort of, drawing parts of a map and there's a lot missing. It leaves there's just so much open-ended that like you are going to discover answers starting play for a lot of it. I
feel like that relieved a lot of the anxiety about it. Yeah.
You're not supposed to know. You're supposed to like ask an interesting question more.
Yeah.
I think I have a lot of the same anxieties as you do, Amelia, about character creation, about, like I said, I don't want to know it all right away. And so as the designer, I think that's reflected really strongly that like a deepest regret might not have an answer, but it might have like a hint to the GM about what direction you want to explore in. And then you can get more details, but there's no like direct pressure on you to ever know the answer right away.
And I feel like what we came up with was evocative, right? Because it was like, you let me down, but it doesn't say like why or how or when or, like any of the details. It was just like, you weren't there for me.
It's like a Damocles sword hanging right over your character.
Exactly. I love the ambiguity of those past questions though, too, because it's like, do these questions apply to one moment in time? Do they apply to the whole lifespan of this Alchemistresses? Alchemistress?
I know.
Okay,
See, I
now I'm
said we're going to be in our own heads because like we got it right the first time.
This mistress of the past is like, now that it's open-ended, I can kind of decide that, like, and then you're from my understanding, when you first transform in the present, you get just those core thoughts of what your character used to be, and you discover more through play. You're creating these seeds for your future self to kind of discover and nourish and grow into, right? And that's just fascinating that you can say, well, my deepest regret comes from the end of the mistress's life, but this other thing comes from the beginning of their life. And it's like you're getting fragments of this individual, and how interesting and thrilling that'll be to try to discover that through play is remarkable.
As a player, Dee described it, and I want to say this lightly because I don't want to like taint what people think. It's very like Memento-like. Like you would get like a scene and not have the full context for it. And then a couple sessions later, you would get another scene that would give you context on like that other thing you had seen in the past.
Yeah. Sorry,
I was some good like slow burn.
I was thinking of the the story I'm thinking of, Allison, from playtesting, where I was like, thanks, good buddy, to somebody. It was so Allison had designed an NPC who was specifically like my tragic.
The Mistress of Spirit.
Yeah, the Mistress of Spirit was in this particular game my like tragic ex, right? Who and like the end of our relationship is part of what broke up the team and like sort of led to a lot of trouble in the past world. And we gradually learned that, and just like I just fed right into her plans, because in the first flashback, I treated that character. I was like, "Hey, friend, like thanks so much for the support," because I didn't know, and it actually created this really compelling narrative of me like downplaying her feelings after we had her breakup. It was really amazing.
Oh wow!
Oh. That hurts to like even listen
right?
to. Like, it's so awkward.
She literally like punched the person on the shoulder and was like, "Thanks, bud."
Oh,
like,
no.
right after they had broken up.
Yikes.
Oh, boy. So how does the process of character creation reinforce the feel of this game and set expectations for play? We've kind of been answering that here. I feel like there's a lot of pieces missing that I need to discover, and that hunger for the missing pieces would easily progress through play.
And I think one thing I want to mention is it sets an expectation for the GM too, because as a GM, you have no control. Like during play, mistresses get to narrate their own flashbacks. And so you have no control over them, and they can make claims about the world. So there's a lot said about what the relationship between the players and the GM is going to be. And in the guide, it gives you like, in this episode, maybe tell them a bit about the sidekick. And there's this guide about how to reveal information, what to do. But what you know from that is that as a GM, you are going to be very collaborative and reactive with your style rather than very prepared in specific ways. And I like that.
I also think it gives the players a lot of opportunities to signpost, what do I want to see in this game, especially with those questions about like, what do I, like I want to be the lead in the school play. Okay, well, like obviously we have to, like that's going to come up. And even with those questions at the very beginning of like, what things do you really want to have in here? There were a lot of points where we signposted very clearly, this is what I want to see in the game. So I feel like as a GM, it's easier to not come in with your like hours and hours and hours of prep, because we've already told you what we want to see.
Yep.
And I didn't think, like, I'm just processing this now. Revelation, wow. But I think in the episode guide, every episode starts with something that is kind of a bit of character creation, addition. So like episode 1, the GM asks every character, they have a relationship with an NPC. Do they want it to be an enigma, a crush, a bully, or a mentor? And then that's built in. So the start of every episode, there's this like back and forth where you add a little bit to your character and a little bit to the world. And there's like a very clear guide for the GM to like structure that like a season of an anime. So like, Sailor Jupiter has her episode and that happens in the episode guide. And there are questions that the GM reaches out and they're like, how do you want your character to develop? What conflict do you want to be the focus of your episode? So it's very much that your character continues to develop pretty significantly.
And maybe it's the fact that we don't get to play these characters that I always like feel this a little bit, but I have to say that it built up a lot of anticipation because there were so many things that we didn't define that it was like, okay, but like I really need to know.
Yep.
You need to know what's going to happen. Like there are so many, there's so many threads that I want to pull on and see where it goes, that it is the kind of character creation that like desperately makes you want to play it out. Like I am not at all satisfied just making the character. It's like I need to know what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a feeling when you're playing a really good game that has a strong story focus where you are just kind of like I get this all the time. I'm just such a nerd. Like, I'll be like, I've been talking to Allison a lot because she's GMing playtests for me. I'll just be like, oh gosh, I can't wait until like, here's the thing I want to do as this character. Like, I want to do it, right? And that's true for any like great narrative focused game. You're thinking about moves that you want to make to move the story forward, and then you want to find out how that will affect the plot. And I think it is like, it's because there are these sort of missing pieces. It's really built into character creation here. Like you can't tell yourself a complete story in your head based off of what you have, and that kind of pulls you forward.
Yeah, like I just need a couple more hours of play so that we can, like maybe that's why you're able to do this playtesting campaign thing, is because you've left so much. People are like, I have to come back now. Like I have to make the schedule work. There's no choice.
I think something else in the character creation is like the mix of tones, which I think came out pretty nicely in ours. That there are one thing I've seen just from seeing the game get played, which is it's very appropriate for Allison's style, if you know it, is that there's a combination of like comic and like deeply dramatic elements. They juxtapose a lot. Like what my experience through play is that you go back and forth a lot. Like just very funny shenanigans will happen, and then you'll sort of transition into something like very dramatic or like something very thrilling and like adventurous. And I think that like, for instance, like, you have regrets contrasted with transformation, for instance, right? Which are like, please come up with an elemental pun. And it's like, it's a really interesting mix that like the structure of the game encourages a lot, because gameplay is always structured around like, okay, let's check in on what's going on in high school. Now let's check in on what's going on with this magical, battle. And I think it sort of begins on the character sheets by having those different elements juxtaposed right next to each other.
I think that really emulates what I know of the genre, though, because I know so many people that like I remember my cousin watching like Sailor Moon when we were kids, and now like listening to my sibling talk about it, I'm like, this is like my understanding of like what my cousin watched and then like what my sibling watched. Like now that we're adults, I'm like, these are two totally different things. Like you thought it was like funny and cute, and I'm like, there's like, this is heavy. Like there's a lot happening in the background that you don't pick up on when you're 9 or 10. So I feel like it does a good job kind of emulating those elements of the actual genre too.
Yeah. But I think like the genre, and this is true of a lot of anime genres, but definitely of Magical Girls, that there is the very conscious push and pull, which we have captured in the episode guide of like the filler episode. That, you'll have an episode where a relationship will really advance, a character will power up, and they have to do that by confronting something very dark. And the next time is like we're going
calling everyone to work when I'm not supposed to. Yeah.
Exactly.
Everyone's in bikinis. Oh, we're playing beach volleyball now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I have to work this shift and the school play is the same night, and now I have to run back and forth between the two. Yeah.
I have 3 dates at the same time.
That was the next suggestion. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. I also get like when you were describing the flashbacks and how they're kind of interspersed, throughout the gameplay. My brain went to like the CW Arrowverse like types of shows where they've got the present day and then they flash back 5 years and then like some sort of thing happens back then that kind of also is, you know, telling of what's going on in the present day, that sort of trope. And that combined with magical girls is just phenomenal.
Chef kiss.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'll go into like when we talk about advancement, I'll tell you exactly how it works. I think you've like nailed it without even hearing it. It's very that. We were like Michael, the other person who designed it, and I were like, oh, what other genre would this work for? And we were thinking like, you know, like a Criminal Minds where they're like looking at a scene and then they have a flashback to how the crime was committed and then it flashes back to the present day.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's exactly like the kind of flashbacks that we're picturing for those particular moments.
Absolutely.
We kind of covered it a little bit just in sort of like our descriptive moments. But on this show, we talk a lot about the character sheets and sort of the intention that was put into designing them. We did some of our stuff in the spreadsheet. But for the actual character sheets for the game, they're lovely, first of all. But what kinds of things did you want to make sure were incorporated in there? How did you decide what things, you know, were like front and center on there?
So I hope this doesn't sound silly, but one of my best friends of like 20 years is a layout artist. And so I was working with her, and my philosophy for the character sheet was like, if my layout artist friend says it looks too crowded, then there's too much information on the sheet and we should be able to simplify it more and make it more elegant. So it was about both the mechanics and the sheet. Like it was a kind of like a means testing for what looks overwhelming, because I know when I look at a sheet and it is very crowded and there are many sheets and it looks very overwhelming, then I am less inclined to even want to engage with it.
Yes.
So that was like that was the thing that I did for that. And I also just wanted it to look girly and like frilly and magical, and use the most annoyingly decorative font that I could find.
But it looks so pretty.
It was like the most annoyingly decorative font that my friend who does design would allow me to put on.
Right.
It was a negotiation.
Absolutely.
I love that. Were there certain like elements that you felt like needed to be like bigger on there? Or because I know I'm the kind of person that like, because of my ADHD, I'm easily distracted by like, ooh, okay, like this is the first thing I see. Were there things on there that you were like, this is what I need you to know right away? So
actually, I will talk about one other thing about the physical design, which is interesting, is that in the game, you only have access to memories that you can see. Mm-hmm. Or you only have access to information you can see, which is why you flip the character sheet. So if you have the mistress side up, that whole sheet is like accessible to you as a player. And then when you flip it over, that sheet is accessible to you as a player. So though it wasn't about prominence, one of the things we had to think about is how to keep persistent information. So like if my resolve goes down as I'm a mistress, how do I keep that when I flip it over? And the answer is a paperclip. I feel really genius about it.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of work about thoughts about that. And that's why the memory sheet is a separate sheet, because those memories are accessible to you no matter what state you're in. Okay. So that was it. And for visualization, I also wanted to I wanted it to look like you can fill things in, right? Mm-hmm. So yes. I know that a portrait, like drawing a portrait, is not the most mechanically necessary, but I wanted to give that space and give it room to breathe, because it gives you creative ownership over the thing.
Yeah, it means there's no preconceived notions about what it has to be.
Yes. Plus,
and I have to like explain the like the paperclip thing for people because we're listening. But there's like numbers kind of down the side of the sheet, and so if you put a paperclip on there, it's almost like a little slider that you could do. That when you flip it over, it would be on the same number.
Yeah. Yeah, because they flip from the left side for the mistress sheet and then the right side for the present sheet. And when you flip the sheet, if you print it back to back, it's just
genius. Honestly,
it's great.
Like
I love it.
That's so smart.
Yeah, because when you first mentioned
it's something I was very proud of. Right? I was like, we've made it. We've made strides.
Had a moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you back at the right Kickstarter level, you'll get special custom made little heart-shaped paper clips to track your results
Are you
with.
serious right now? That's such
amazing.
a good, like of all the like peripherals, I just like that it's like we made special paper. Like that just like I, as an office supply nerd, I'm like,
On the page with you.
oh,
You've piqued my interest.
I love office supplies.
And I do love the blank portrait as well, because like a lot of the magical girl genre is about the appearance of things and all that sort of stuff, and having that full creative control to say this is what I'm thinking for my appearance is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And we often actually don't have people like draw their full selves in until after they've described their first transformation. Because a lot of people, it's like when they transform from their mundane selves into their magical selves, they really like describing their hair.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
so like once they do that, they're like, oh, my hair turns from like blonde to blue and it grows really long and makes like little wave shapes. And so it's again in the episode guide for the GM with specific prompts, like make them physically describe their mundane and magical self as they transform.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. I didn't
So
even
good.
think about my hair.
Same.
Oh,
I mean,
it's like a real missed opportunity.
yeah, you can't do it all every session.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, we got fanfic. It's fine.
We'll get there.
Before we get to that, what do you think is one of the biggest flaws of character creation in this system, and what is your favorite part?
Oh, I only prepare for the flaw, not the favorite part. So I have strong feelings, right? Because they are the things that we've struggled with the most. And the number one that we mentioned is the order in which character creation goes
Yes.
and how that flow happens. I think it's very hard. It's not only hard for us to know, but it's hard for people to know ahead of time which one will work the best for them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think figuring that out has been a challenge. And spells used to be really bad, like really bad. I want to give all the props that I can to Shrung because bringing in that, like helping people with that construct guide has been really useful. But I think one of the weaknesses is that it takes time to get into how to use your spells.
Yeah.
Like I think it would take, you can like, let me like see what you think because you've seen as many games played, but I think it takes a session or two for you to kind of truly like fall into a good groove. And ideally, like my dream is that would be right off the bat. You would have a strong idea of the spell, but I've seen people have to take some time to like get into them. People who have seen Avatar more quickly than people who have not will be my like.
I don't know that I've ever played a game though where like the magic system was like right away. Like it always, and I love playing magic users, but like for some reason, I don't know what it is about magic, but like almost every game that I've played or read has like taken me a minute just to like, I have to do it a couple times before I know. So I don't think that that's something that's unique to your design experience at all.
Honestly, as someone who does who has a focus on intimate design and narrative, combat design was like new for me in this, and it was really eye-opening to work through. And sorry, I interrupted you, Dora. Go ahead.
I was just about to say that I think it's not a weakness per se, but a challenge of the character creation is just that like, because you're creating two characters and two worlds, it's a lot to move through.
Yeah.
So we've thought about that a few ways, right? So first of all, I think that like, we were sort of commenting that it doesn't feel as long as it necessarily is. It also like the structure of how you build things makes the sort of subsequent steps feel easy. So a lot of it is built into that. And then I think we also, try to address that, or to deal with it in how like we structure first sessions. So, the first sort of like the first episode of the anime season is intended to be played over 2 sessions. And like in sort of the GM guide, there's very specific milestones for like what you should aim to get done in the first session, alongside the character creation to slowly introduce the world and the situation, and then give room to complete that in like a second session.
Okay, to
You
kind
get
of
it
like
to be
ease people into it or like give you time to, okay.
Yeah. It's like episode 1, part 1, and then it ends on a to be continued.
Right.
Dot,
Well,
dot, dot.
it starts
Love
with, it starts with Usagi like running down the street to catch her bus with toast in her mouth. And then like
Yes.
only at the right time does Luna say like, Usagi, you're the... So I'm actually doing the American dub voice, which I'm sure everybody could tell. Everybody was like, that's a perfect Luna from the American dub.
The original American dub?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So there's a specific pacing to it.
Okay, so it's time for our favorite segment. What is our fanfic? So I feel like over the course of this, we've had several questions that we were like, we'll answer that when we get there. I do know we talked at the beginning about like subs and dubs, and we did not make a decision on that. So I feel like that might be the place to start.
Gosh, it almost has to be a dub because of the zaniness of the millennial times.
And then it's like bad translations of cult. Like it was made in Japan, but then so it's a Japanese filter of American culture filtered back through a dub.
Yeah.
Interesting. See, personally, I like dubs just because I have I have executive processing issues. So like I can't, like I need to both hear it and see it. So like I watch American shows with subtitles on, like I have to. So like that's where I'm just like, it has to be a dub. It has to.
It's,
it's but that's not for any like story reason.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like we don't need to get into sub-dub discourse, but like there is like a specific cultural history to it. Cause I think that if you're definitely the thing that comes to mind for me, like being the exact age I am and like having the cultural exposure that I did is that like, if you ask, is it the sub or the dub? What you're asking is like, is it sort of like because in the 1990s when anime was first coming to North America, like dubs were just like, everything was dubbed and it was all really weirdly bad.
Right.
It's like famously, the like one of the most like touching, queer romances and youth culture was changed into them being cousins. And the original Sailor Moon dub.
Even I know that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's like, there's sort of this like there's an association with like the sort of like low quality and kind of like zaniness and fractured storytelling, which is not actually fair to the process of dubbing, which is like a completely valid process that makes a lot of work more accessible to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it's a complex. What do we talk about when we talk about dubbing?
Right.
Is
like,
the question I want to ask you.
And then I think there's a level of like sometimes like gatekeeping involved with that. It's like, oh, you just watched the one that they showed on Saturday mornings, and I went and found the other. I put more effort into.
There's definitely like watching the dubs is a valid cultural experience, and it's okay to like love them with all of their quirks. And also especially as time moves on, like there are very high quality dubs of a lot of things available, including Sailor Moon now.
Yeah. We've definitely like gotten better about that. And I think as time goes on to like more culturally sensitive in those things too, which is good.
Absolutely.
Okay. So here's a question. What are we all wearing to prom? This is important.
I do want to know, but I'll do you one better, which is what are we wearing to prom and who do we go
Who
with?
are we taking?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. See, and I wasn't sure, like, are we taking each other or is it like NPCs that we haven't met yet? You know?
Well, I think River and Sky are going just as friends, of course, because they've been just friends their whole life.
Of course. Yeah.
Why wouldn't they?
But at this point in the series, I would have found out that I had feelings for the Mistress of Fire as well.
Oh,
that's true, because prom is going to be at the end of the season.
Yeah, so now I'm torn. I've got these two secret loves and I know it's eating away at my past self to not put those forward into the world and to focus on my thing. And here I am focusing on my swimming again.
Yeah.
And am I going to miss out on this chance for love?
Oh, I like it a lot.
Oh.
But
and then my question too is like, is Sky even the kind of person that like goes to prom, or are you the kind of person that's like, I'm too cool for that?
Oh, you're right. There could be a too cool, not to tell on myself as a human, but I only went to my prom because someone forfeited their ticket, and they were like PJs over slacks and sneakers under a fancy ball gown dress.
I didn't go
skirt.
because I couldn't be bothered. It was expensive and stupid.
Agreed. And then everyone else went to an after party, and me and my 2 friends went home to watch The Last Unicorn. So,
Oh,
I think we watched Fight Club.
but I think that might be Sky would be there if there happened to be a free ticket around, and would be wearing something quirky that's definitely not prom appropriate.
I'm only going because I didn't have anything better to do tonight.
Did Sky ask anybody to prom? Obviously not, I guess.
No.
Did anybody
Gosh,
ask
no.
Sky?
I mean,
I
if
guess
River's going
it's a
with-
question mark.
Oh.
Yeah.
It all depends on River.
I think River probably would have, but like, hey, I don't have anybody to go with.
It
I
was
know.
your spare ticket.
Yeah. So like, hey, do you wanna come with me? And then like super awkward about it, but like, don't worry about it if you don't want to, whatever. So then entirely up to Sky if she goes with River, because in my mind, if not, I would probably ask out Ember at that point.
Mhm.
So how do we feel about Ember's, where's Ember memory wise at this point? What memories of the past,
This is probably,
relationship.
it's got to be late in the campaign, right? So
Yeah.
we've all uncovered a lot of memories, but Ember could be
yes.
missing key context or could know
us
extra things.
could have had bad memories instead of good ones, right?
Yeah.
That would have
Right.
to
Well, because
vice
like what
versa,
I
right?
remember is that you let me down.
Yeah.
yeah.
And so like, I think there's like this like sort of like part in the back of my head that's like, you're not even going to show up. Like, why would you not let me down again this time? Like, no.
Right.
Oh, I like this. So
No.
Sky,
I want to
Sky will
go and I'm going to look
Yeah.
super hot just to make you jealous.
Yes.
Like there's a whole scene, like there's a
Um.
whole makeover scene about like, we're going to like Pretty Woman this and like look super amazing just to like.
Okay.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
June gives you a makeover because June knows very little about being femme, but she's remembered a lot from her past life.
Right, from your other like,
Oh.
yes. Oh my gosh. And you're like, I can do it. And I'm like, okay. You? Like,
Yeah.
yes.
And what?
It's like
um,
right after work, like in the back room of Millennial Times.
Yes.
Like we gotta
Oh,
get quick. We have
yes.
to like
Oh,
quick get ready.
And you walk out of the we've seen this set a ton, and it's always sort of fluorescent lights, and it's like everybody, it's always the two of us, me looking harried and you looking bored, and you walk out and you just look.
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing.
And who's the baddie who's trying to ruin our prom?
That would be my date.
Oh.
Yeah. So, Allison, I'm just for purposes of convenience, I'm going to go fully to type, which is that, June is not dating, but is pointedly not dating the alter ego of the Mistress of Spirit, the villain who's been bedeviling us this entire time. And, I go stag to prom and I'm hanging out with everybody this is so fun. But then there's a scene where I walk out onto the gym, the place outside of the school. And I just sigh mournfully. And then out of the darkness walks the Mistress of Spirit in a gorgeous dress. And I'm just oh. And then she's come with me. You don't have to be a part of what happens next. But I walk away.
Oh,
Don't worry.
no.
I'll stand with the team. I would never betray you all.
No. You say that.
I know. I don't trust this one either.
Oh,
This is very
no.
too type. These favorite
Mhm.
characters go off and make out with the villains and then are untrustworthy for the rest of anything.
I am very trustworthy after I make out with the villains. I'll have you know every time.
So I want to know, I assume that June is wearing a tux. I feel like you have very Janelle Monáe, feminine, but
I think
You know.
I think you're exactly right. I think that the effect of there's just sort of a background plot the whole time of June being am I the super glamorous mistress of Earth, or am I this kind of like, down home, comfortable, practical June. And I think that the right solution to that is that she shows up to prom in a tux looking like incredible. Just spot on.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to say that River, like, normally dresses like with her hair up and like, pretty proper for school and all that stuff. But then like when it comes to prom, she does that whole like let your hair down and somehow you're like 100 times more attractive.
You take off the glasses.
Glasses.
Now you wear contacts.
Yep. And like I've got that like Disney princess gown going.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so like pretty much going all out for this event, even though she's not even sure if she has a date, but she wants to put herself out there to try to experience this, to see if she can actually get a hold of love instead of having it slip between her fingers all the time.
Yeah.
And I think this might be like, so part of what I would do with this character if I was playing it over a season is reconciling like the practical past self with the totally oblivious present self.
Mm-hmm.
And while we're getting to the end of the season, this might be Sky's time to like realize some of the not so subtle hints River has been leaving over the course of the season. And I think they would have a moment in this episode. This guy's like, wait a minute. And then there's like a comedic anime flashback to like every single moment, or like
all the times I brought you like little baked goods just for
all those,
fun.
like,
I'm trying this new recipe. Oh, here's this fun thing here.
Like you bring a Valentine.
Yep.
Like that little montage happens.
I imagine River too being like, oh, it's like I'm giving Valentines to everybody. Like, don't, worry about, but like, you just made the one.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Good. That's so good.
Oh,
yeah. I think we've talked about the most important things.
I agree. I did find out the one thing that we said we needed to do. Our final spell.
Oh, that's right.
That would happen. So in this scenario, we would possibly be battling the Mistress of Spirit as like a final big bad at the end of the season. And we would all have to combine our powers to create a final spell. And it would cost us all something dramatic. And this is kind of inspired by, it's a very traditional end of Sailor Moon season 1, where they do that final spell. And then at the start of season 2, they had lost their memories.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So it's very much like we can confront this evil and we have this powerful tool to defeat it. But ...
Oh, boy.
What if the thing that we lose is the ability to transform afterwards? Either way, actually, it could work that we're stuck as magical girls or that we're stuck as humans.
That's so good.
That would be fascinating either way.
Mm-hmm.
Because like if this is the final confrontation and we're stuck without our transformations again, that's fine, because now we can live life as normal. But there's always that, well, what if something comes along? And now you've got that worry, right?
What if season 2?
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Season 2 is going to happen, of course, because this sounds phenomenal and it's going to get renewed.
Yeah,
but
sure.
also, like, that's a lot of tension to live with. You've had all this power and ability and now you don't. But
yeah,
then,
I think there's like a level of relief of like, okay, I don't have that responsibility either.
I love that.
But
I think that's great.
On the flip side, stuck as your transformed selves, now you're 100% this mistress in the present as well.
Mm-hmm. So I think the thing is we write 2 different episodes, and then if we get renewed, then we get stuck in our old selves. And if we don't get renewed, it can be like the nice ending of like, okay, we defeated the evil. Like, we don't need to, now we can just go on with high school,
What if it's
trapped in the, sorry.
What if it's a coin flip for each of the characters?
Oh.
Like, some might get stuck, might not.
Or not a coin flip, but an individual choice that they have to make alone.
Oh, no.
I like that. And there's like the sacrifice of staying as your old self is you're like giving up your present day identity.
Right.
You're essentially like the person you are or have been your whole life no longer exists. and you are just a reincarnation of that other person.
See, and then I pick to be in the be my past self, but like River stays as River, and that's the moment that you like let me down because now I'm stuck here and you're not here.
It's like a
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
No, love it. I think. Wow. It would depend what Skye learned over the course of a season.
Right.
Yeah.
At the beginning, she definitely would not ever pick being a spreadsheet superhero.
For sure.
She's like, this is everything I hate. But I think she might like to go against type. What I would want to do is build the season so that at the end that decision made sense.
Yeah.
So there was enough growth that like being the person who took care of the things is the choice she keeps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But even just having that decision over your head, like knowing that if you use this, that decision will come to fruition. Like that's enough to not want to use it unless you absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge life altering decision.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh,
I think, and then the season ends on like this sort of epilogue shot of, it's in millennial times. We see like mortal June surveying River. Like maybe River sitting at the window booth. June comes over and puts down her fries and then looks up and River's like, what? And we both look outside and like standing on a building across the street, we see the two magical girls, like their capes flowing behind them in the wind. And there's just like a long look exchanged and then you disappear.
oh yeah. Oh, heartbreaking.
That's so good.
How can we get us all back together again?
Only season 2 will tell.
I know.
Well, I guess we'll never know.
Oh.
Which means it's time
So
for our
good.
next segment. So we've hinted at it a lot, but let's go ahead and talk about advancement in this game and how that works.
Take it up a level. Take it up a level.
Yes.
Yes.
So which is interesting, is there's some advancement that's tied specifically to the episode guide. So that's like, we were talking about each magical girl gets their own episode.
Mhm.
And once you do that, you get some mechanical advancements. Like you get your second spell through that episode, not through any other traditional means. So that's one way characters advance. And the other is literally through those memories you get.
Mm.
So there are two types. There are those team memories, and those are full flashback scenes that happen every episode. You'll get one big team flashback that usually happens right after you defeat a baddie, you know. But as individuals, every time you take an action as a mistress that involves doing a check, you roll a special die called the memory die.
Ooh.
I did spirit fingers. I think I'm learning.
Mhm.
And on either the highest or the lowest number of that die, you will get a memory. And the highest number will be a positive memory, and the lowest number will be a negative memory.
Oh.
So it starts on a D6. So if you're if you're fighting or anything you're doing as a magical girl, you roll a D6. If you don't get a memory, it downgrades to a D4. And then after that, it's a coin flip. So you'll always relatively quickly be getting these memories.
Mhm.
And they're quick flashbacks, kind of like you were talking about. So if I'm like fighting a bad guy and maybe I hit them with a lightning bolt and I roll my memory die and I get a memory, that moment, that interaction flashes me back really quickly to the past. And I see something from the past that is now matted to my memory sheet. So the advancement is first and foremost narrative. You get these memories. So there are mechanical benefits too. Those memories are not on your magical girl side of the character sheet. So you can use them when you're not transformed. And there's like a whole like alchemy points I think I briefly mentioned, but they're just a resource that you use. And you can use them to call on any of your memories to make your rolls stronger.
Oh.
So if in that memory, I remember hitting someone in the face with a lightning bolt. And then in my mundane self, I'm doing something and I think that skill would be useful. I can then call on the memory to make it better.
Oh, cool.
Very nice.
I like
so
that a lot.
those are always available to you. And then every second or third memory, if you can see, do you have the memory sheet? Or if you can see, there's like little icons on it. And each of those icons is a special thing. So every second or third memory, you get another advancement. And sometimes the plus ones are just, they are increasing your stats only when you're transformed as a magical girl.
Mm-hmm.
But other things you get a magical item that is like Sailor Moon's transformation pen.
Oh, nice.
So you get a memory where you get an item, and that can be used to like give you benefits in combat. The last memory you get, you remember your name from the past life. And when that happens, you get to bleed one of your convictions from your past life to your present character. And it now is you able to be referenced as in your mundane life.
Oh, nice.
So the main advancement is all narrative. It's all about these memories, about figuring out who you are. And then they're structured to be tied to these mechanical things that we think are very evocative of the magical girl genre.
Mm-hmm.
Dee, please tell us about your item. Dee has the best item.
Well, it was...
Or not the best item, the best motivation for having an item.
It was... oh gosh, where do I even start? So I pretty much got Sailor Moon's transformation pen. So for anybody who doesn't know, is just sort of, you can do this sort of simple disguise to look like something. She really never uses it for anything effective. I think she literally is like, I need to get these people to safety. I'm gonna make myself look like a stewardess because people trust flight attendant. Like it's all it's Usagi. She's doing her best.
Yeah.
But I got such an item, and I used it because I had like, oh gosh, where do I even start? So I had encountered my evil ex from a past life in her mortal self, but I didn't realize they were the same person. And in order to I didn't think that she would date me. So I disguised myself as my own cool older cousin to flirt with her. Ryan was my cool older cousin. She was really, really hip.
Amazing.
So that's, you too could get a magical item to flirt with a girl if you...
Because it was a student placement teacher and she was a senior in high school.
It wasn't appropriate.
Oh,
yeah.
No. Oh, it's so good. Well, before we head out, is there anything else either of you want to say about Alchemistresses? Final remarks.
Any last words? No.
Wow. I just wanted to say it's been wonderful to talk about it with someone who is so passionate about the genre, and also like the weird quirks that are specific to this game, like the genre bending and the specific like double world creation and the reincarnation and the social dramas.
Yeah, I feel like you Googled like, who is the person I should talk to most?
Absolutely. And I'm really thankful we had the opportunity to do this because goodness gracious, this was an absolute delight.
Does your face hurt from smiling so much now?
It does. It has some like cheek fatigue. So.
Please never use those words again. I'm uncomfortable.
Well,
cheek fatigue.
Allison, Dora, thank you both so much for joining us to talk about Alchemistresses.
Thank you for having us.
An absolute pleasure.
It's been wonderful.
Can you remind everyone where they can find you online and what sort of things you're working on?
So, number one, look up Alchemistresses on Kickstarter. It's funding now, I'm guessing, and we're very excited about it. You can find me, Allison K. Cole, on Twitter, or softchaos.games on the internet.
And you can find me on Twitter at Dora Dee _, or you can see some of my work at dcity.itch.io.
Well, thank you guys both for sitting down with us. This was so much fun. I am sure that by now, by the time this episode comes out, you've already fully funded at like 400%.
Heck yeah.
Great. But thank you for doing this. And thank you to everyone for tuning in.
Call to action.
Yeah, like that. Okay, Ryan.
Yeah.
It has now been, what, 4 weeks-ish since we recorded this?
I don't even know anymore.
I'm not sure. Was it the 20? I think it was the 22nd of May, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Still.
Have you recovered?
I mean, it still is occupying a large portion of my RPG brain.
Yeah.
It probably is currently my favorite, like, 4-player RPG that I haven't played yet, especially.
Yeah. That's so specific. My favorite 4-player RPG that I have not played.
Right. I mean, it's fantastic all around. I'm very curious how it would play with fewer than 4 or even more than 4 players.
Yeah.
But like, goodness gracious, this game just has everything I would want for a magical girl game. And I think that came through with my exuberance during these recordings.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's also, I think, the fastest you've edited a series ever.
Like, just get it. I gotta get it.
Like, I want it all out in the world.
I know. No, it was so good.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
You can check out the Kickstarter if you liked what you heard, which I hope you did, because it was great. I don't know why you wouldn't like it. They launched today as of this recording, but it will be last week by the time you hear this. They have made insert amount of money so far, and they will need to make certain amount of money more to achieve their goal, or they have achieved their goal. You can put like a little robot voice over that. I, for one, am thoroughly looking forward to all kinds of stuff here, like the peripherals and the, like, I just did the soft cover, but the stickers, I did the stickers too.
Oh, yeah. I want that hardcover so bad.
Yeah, the hardcover stretch goal.
Oh my goodness.
But they need our help getting there, or don't need our help getting there. Hopefully it will all be good by the time this comes out in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm really excited for this campaign, and goodness gracious, if you can give to at least back at the PDF level, if not higher, this game is just something special. So absolutely check it out. And please let me have the hardcover version of this game, everyone. So.
Right? Seriously. Please, everyone, let Ryan have just this one thing.
Yep. If I ask you anything this year, it's back this Kickstarter so I can have a very much cooler version of this game.
Right.
Awesome. Well, we are still uploading episodes to our YouTube page. It's a slow process, but it's going well so far. If you have a moment, go ahead and subscribe to our channel at youtube.charactercreationcast.com, and maybe even like some of your favorite episodes. I think that'll help us out too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some sort of algorithms. Yeah,
they look nice, and I'm organizing them into playlists too. So if you want to go through and listen to, all the PBTA episodes or just the indie games, which is actually a really hard category to define. Just the ones where we had designers, something like that. YouTube is really nice for that because they're all organized that way as I get them uploaded, obviously. I think as of this recording, I have up through 39. So 39 to 51 in there. Slow and steady wins the race.
Working backwards. And like and subscribe to help the YouTube ghosts.
Yeah.
Give us recommendations to other people.
Right, because that is also how YouTube works, because they are part of Google, so it is just ghosts. And ghosts love when you both like and subscribe.
That's very true.
As everyone knows. Next up, check out what we have to offer on our Patreon page. Our last episode of June will be the final Q&A episode that we didn't have room for last month because y'all asked so many questions.
Yeah.
But that Q&A episode is already in our Patreon feed. So if you back at the $5 and up level, you can get access to that right away. If everything goes smoothly, the week we're recording this cold open, the first episode of Series 52 should be in there as well. That one was so much fun to record. That was like, if Alchemistresses was Ryan's jam. I don't know. I guess I don't want to say that this was like the most my jam. But it was a lot.
It was a lot your jam.
It was a lot me. I was pretty excited about it.
Absolutely.
So don't forget, too, that every tier provides Discord benefits, so you can get access to extra Discord channels. I know we've had a few people back the Patreon, but they're not on Discord or haven't joined our Discord. So this message is for you if you want to. Feel free. You can link your Discord to Patreon to get access to those exclusive channels. Or if you join our Discord at discord.charactercreationcast.com and just let us know, we can give you the role too. If you don't want to link them.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of our patrons, we have some special thanks to our current backers as of the time of this recording. First, we want to thank our new backers since the last recording that we haven't been able to thank yet. So, Matt Newton, thank you so much.
Daryl Holiday II, thank you as well.
And, of course, we want to continue to thank our existing patrons. Lieutenant, our first patron, thank you so much.
Eric Bonds, thank you so much for your support.
And David, a.k.a. Tigranosaurus, thank you so much.
And thank you to any and all future patrons. Your assistance helps us produce the show and keep up the quality of the things that we're doing here by covering all of the costs to make it. So you can head over to patreon.com/charactercreationcast in order to support our show directly. Every little bit helps, and we are very thankful to everyone who has contributed and can in the future. Also, to let you know, I just finished designing the thank you notes for the $5 and up backers. So if you want one of my lovely handmade thank you notes, now would be an excellent time when I get the first round sent out.
They are gorgeous, and I guarantee they are worth it. So definitely check that out. Goodness. I want one now.
Well, I can send you one. If you would like one, I will mail you one.
We'll talk about that later.
I'll send you a special co-host thank you card.
Oh, there you go. Then I'll send you one back with just stick figures on it because I can't do anything art. And with that, we don't have any more announcements since we are out of reviews. If you want to help us there, feel free to check out the show notes on where you can leave reviews, and we will read them out on the show during this segment. But in the meantime, thanks for joining us, everyone. We hope you enjoyed our Alchemistresses series. Stay tuned next week for our final Q&A episode. But until then, take care, stay safe, drink some water, relax a bit, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time.
Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can be found on Twitter at CreationCast or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Amelia Antrim, and I can be found on Twitter at Ginger Reckoning, or on my other podcast, Garbage of the Five Rings. Our other host, Ryan Bolter, can be found on Twitter at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast it originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by the absolutely fantastic Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game system used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, extra outtakes, and much, much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.
we gotta read some show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Character Creation Cast is hosted by the One Shot Podcast Network. If you enjoyed our show, visit oneshotpodcast.com, where you'll find other great shows like Campaign.
Campaign Skyjacks takes place in an original setting inspired by folktales and classic adventure fiction. James D'Amato leads Liz Anderson, John Patrick Cohen, Tyler Davis, Johnny O'Mara, and, in recent episodes, Nathan Blades, as they tell a tale of daring sky pirates, giant birds, and the terror of a cursed sea. It's funny, dramatic, and at times emotionally devastating. Search for Campaign Skyjacks or James D'Amato on iTunes, Google Play, or your favorite podcast app.
Yeah.
Yay!
Got it.
There we go.
The first pressure moment through.
I know. I know. High stakes.
Off to a good start.
It is.
I have to mention this just because it's my favorite fact. But Dee usually ends up playing Earth because it's always the last one chosen, actually. But in the campaign we're running now, like, the person who picked Earth is the most Earth person I've ever met. And she, like, this is the player, not the character, but the player has spent like a week campaigning in California to get her favorite mushroom elected as the state mushroom.
Wow.
And I was like, you were born to play this character.
Yeah. Yeah. See, and I feel like part like Ryan obviously like is, you know, Sailor Neptune. That's, you know, Lord Neptune, right? So I'm like, okay, water is fine. But I also know that Ryan and I are just opposites. So I feel like that always works well for us too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like we are about as different of people as you can be.
Yep.
It's also great when you're both creating characters to see.
Yeah.
Shall we just for posterity, shall we all perform our phrases once?
I mean, probably. Right. Nobody can see it, but it's important.
It is.
It's important to the game.
I mean, Ryan, we could technically cut this video clip and put it on there too if we all.
We probably could.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
All right. We'll go. You know what? We're going to go right to left. We're going to start Ryan and then just
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Time to get into the deep end.
Very good. It's very good. I bring the heat. Oh, so good. It was so good. It felt good to do it.
It looked good. You're about to be dust in the wind.
Blossom into beauty and power.
Oh, it was so good.
All right. Our team is now transformed.
Huzzah.
I realize I've been muting myself on Zoom every time I cough. I was sick and I still have a bit of a cough. And then I'm like, oh, this does nothing for the Audacity file.
I know, it bothers me because it's like my old microphone too had like a mute button on it and this new one doesn't either. So I'm like, I can't. But
at least, the old microphone, when you muted it, it was a giant ka-chunk. The Blue Yeti. The infamous ka-chunk.
I know, so it's like you had to edit it out anyway. So it's like, I might as well just like mute Zoom and then eat and then, you know. Except my strawberries are like all juice now. So it's all just whipped cream juice.
And we enjoyed our 3 minutes in the air conditioning.
There you go. I went with, got a sneeze coming out 1 second. And it's gone.
I hate that.
I know. And that's it for our announcement. This I'll try that again.
I did it.
Me too.
Clicky.
Yeah.
Those waveforms.
Waveforms.
Beautiful.
The waveforms have been ghosts this whole time.
Just tiny ghosts.
Just tiny ghosts.
All right. I'm going to also get out of the garbage. Don't eat garbage. Thank you. Take a drink of this and then we'll.
Time I most wish I was an artist is when someone says like the waveforms were tiny ghosts the whole time. And then I have a ridiculous picture in my head. And I'm like, if only I could communicate this to the world.
And I feel that all the time, too. I'm like, I know exactly what this drawing would look like, but there's no way I can make a pencil do that. Ridiculous. All right. I'm going to give a 5 count so we can get delicious background waveforms. And then we will start. What other questions did we have to answer, though? I'm trying to remember, like, what other things we were like, we'll define that.
Yeah, there was one question that we were like, let's define that in our fanfic.
Yeah.
I was trying to find it.
I know. If only.
If only we'd recorded conversation.
I know.
I know.
It's too bad. It's too bad.
But who has the time?
Remember that one time you didn't do the countdown and I freaked out?
I did the countdown, but I didn't do the clicky.
Yeah.
I think it was
like,
just,
clicky.
I was like, click, clack.
Yeah, I don't know what it
Clack,
was.
clack.
And I was like, this is so upsetting to me. I thrive on routine and consistency.
Yeah. Yay.
Woo.
Recording. Time to get into the deep end.
I bring the heat.
You're about to be dust in the wind.
Blossom into beauty and power.